The St. Louis Blues have nothing to lose heading into the playoffs. Let's talk about it.
Hey, this is Brandon Chen. Subscribe to Locked On Blues.
You're Locked On Blues, your daily podcast on the St. Louis Blues. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, and welcome back to Locked On Blues. I am your host of Locked On Blues, Haley Taylor-Simon, talking to you all things about our St. Louis Blues here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today on Locked On Blues, we're going to have a fun episode because it is playoff eve. That is right. The St. Louis Blues are only one day away from playing in the 2025 NHL Playoffs. I am so excited for what is about to come with this Blues team. So to begin, the Blues have nothing to lose. We're going to talk about a game preview and, of course, my favorite Friday segment, Are We Feeling Blue Playoff Edition. Everything's going to be Playoff Edition as I am super proud of what this team has done. Before I get into today's episode, I do want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Again, hello, my name is Haley Taylor-Simon. For everyone that is new or returning, I talk to you about the St. Louis Blues. And I do have an update on Robert Thomas as this episode goes on. But I kind of want to just talk to you, right, about why I feel like the Blues have nothing to lose. And I understand that at the end of the day, every single team right now, all 16 teams in the playoffs, they want to win the Stanley Cup. But for St. Louis, I am getting that same underdog mentality that they had back in 2018, 2019, when they were not a good team midway through the regular season, honestly. They were dead last in the West in January, right? Then they went on 11-game win streak, and they won the Stanley Cup. You might be thinking, well, isn't this kind of the same situation? They were a bottom 7 team during January, and then they went on this awesome 12-game win streak after the 4 Nations face-off. Well, yes and no. The thing about the Blues team back in 2018-19 was that they had more of a strong, suited veteran presence on that team. And again, like players like Schwartz, I could go on and on. Pat Maroon, obviously Pat Maroon played a big part. The point is they had, I guess, different players that were able to elevate the game to a different level. And I think the defense back then was a lot better than the defense the Blues have now. But what I will say is that with Colton Parayko being back, he's healthy. That installs some confidence within myself about how I am taking on this series. And another similarity that I feel like we don't talk enough about is the fact that there was a coaching change in the beginning of the season. Now, it's funny because back in the season when the Blues won the Cup, that's when Craig Berube came in, and this year, this is when Coach Jim Montgomery came in. And I just feel like there's so many similarities between that season and this season. But for me, I like to have the mentality, and this is not a loser mentality, this is just a realistic mentality, that you can't think too ahead of yourself. You have to take it one game at a time. And that is why with this series against the Winnipeg Jets, who won the President's Trophy, I am taking this one game at a time. It's really easy for me to come on this podcast and say Blues in 5, Blues in 6, but if there's no backing of that, then what's the point, right? And I cannot deny the talent on the Winnipeg Jets. But Winnipeg has more at stake than the Blues do. The Winnipeg Jets, and this is factual statements, I'm not saying this to be negative, to come at Winnipeg. I'm just talking to you about why I have the opinion that I have. The Winnipeg Jets obviously lost in the first round the past couple of years, right? When they did advance past the first round and they made it to the second round, they got swept by the Montreal Canadiens. So what I am trying to say and articulate here isn't that, if the Blues end up losing, that it's not going to be upsetting. Obviously, it will be. But for the Jets, they have a tendency of not doing so good in the playoffs. And again, That's not me criticizing the team. It's just a factual statement of why I feel like the President Trophy winning team, who notoriously has had first round exits in the past couple of seasons, has more stake than the team that snuck in as a wild card 2 and went on this franchise record breaking win streak. And I think too, when it comes to any team that's like the wild card team, right? People don't usually expect them to be as successful in the playoffs. And I don't think that's because people don't think they're a good team, but they're obviously being matched up against the best team in the conference. And that is why I feel like there's less pressure on St. Louis and more pressure on Winnipeg. Because let's look at it as, let's go say hypothetically, and I know we're obviously not, like I'm not at all, but we're Jets fans, right? I know we're not, but let's go in their shoes for a second. How would you feel if your team that just won the President's Trophy lost to the Blues? Yeah, probably not so good considering that the Jets have been pretty consistent all. And I think it's a conversation that a lot of people kind of shy away from because they want to go into the Stanley Cup playoffs with this overwhelming sense of confidence. And I can appreciate that, right? I appreciate people being confident and supporting your team. And I know I am. And obviously, I said Blues in 6 because I genuinely believe that the Blues will win this series. But again, I think that when it comes to pressure, teams thrive and sometimes do better when they're looked at as the underdog and having that underdog kind of mentality. And again, it's not me discrediting what Winnipeg has done this season. Obviously, they have some really great players, which we're going to talk about. But I think that just being a Blues fan, I think I know that the goal of this season was to get to the playoffs. It wasn't that this team is a cup contending team. I mean, now they are because they're literally contending in the playoffs. But it is interesting when you think about it. You know, you have 82 games, and it took the Blues all 82 games to secure a spot in the playoffs. And they really were not supposed to be there. Now, initially, when the season began, I thought they were going to be. Before the season began, I did a show here on the Locked On Podcast Network, and I said that the Blues would have 92 points getting the wild card 2. They came close, 96 points, wild card 2. But again, I'm just saying, I basically predicted this would happen because I know that the level of talent on this team wasn't necessarily going to outshine some other teams in the West. And that's okay because at the end of the day, the West is a lot more competitive than the East in terms of talent and how the rosters are. So I was completely okay with the Blues being wildcard 2. They could have been wildcard 1, but I would have, and I said this before, I'd rather face Winnipeg than Vegas. Vegas is one of those teams that scares me. And I'm hoping that at any point we don't have to face Vegas if anything happens and shakes out that way. But Vegas is a scary team. Another similarity, by the way, and this is something, again, reminiscing on the past, when we went on to win the Cup, in the first round, we did beat the Jets. And maybe for the Jets, they're looking at this as revenge, right? Revenge from 2019. The way that I see it is let's rewrite this year's team while still kind of commemorating the past. And that, to me, makes me feel even more confident about this team because we have 5 guys on this team right now that won the Cup wearing the blue note in that 2018-2019 season. And again, this is the first time Braden Shen will be in the playoffs as the captain. Obviously going up against his brother, Luke Shen, who is now in Winnipeg. You know, it's funny. I said I wanted my brother and brother matchup. Now we're getting it in the playoffs. But there is so many storylines. I mean, the Binnington and the Hellebuyck, like there's so many things that we can talk about. But I think the main topic of when I was brainstorming about what I wanted my show to be about today, I just really wanted to touch on the fact that the Blues have nothing to lose. The way that I see it, they have everything to gain. Prove people wrong, prove the doubters wrong. Because at the end of the day, when it comes to the Blues and the talent that this team has, sure, it may not add up to what Winnipeg is, but evidently the Blues still had the longest win streak in the NHL. And I know Winnipeg, I believe, had like a 10-game win streak at some point, I want to say, just off of memory. And the fact that the Blues were able to go on a longer win streak, which was broken by Winnipeg, it just goes to show that the Blues are a team that you really cannot count out. And that is why I just feel like this is a story of an underdog, the 2.0, because again, they are not that same team that we saw in 2018, 2019. All right, a little bit of a game preview because I do have some breaking news on a certain player that I know that we're all kind of concerned about. But before I do that, I want to tell you about my friends over at Amazon TV. And here we go. Did you know your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire Stick 4K devices. No console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe, or sign into your Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included. And you're ready to play. Dive into hundreds of premium titles from EA Sports, College Football 25 to Call of Duty Black Ops 6, and easily stream your favorite shows. It's gaming made simple, and it's all on your Fire TV. With Wi-Fi X and XE and auto low latency mode advanced technology, Fire TV Stick 4K delivers smoother and more responsive gameplay with lightning fast speeds that you need to stay competitive. Again, head to amazon.com/firetv/locked-on to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K 2 Gen, Fire TV Stick 4K Max 1st and 2nd Gen, and Fire TV Cube 3rd Gen. A lot of people have been concerned over one player, and this is a player that a lot of people kind of are counting on, and that is Robert Thomas. I know that a lot of you were concerned when Robert Thomas didn't return to action after the game the other night against the Utah Hockey Club. He wasn't at practice yesterday. It was a maintenance day. And then more heads were turned like, hey, what is happening here with Robert Thomas? Is he okay? Well, luckily we have an answer on Robert Thomas, and it is a good answer on Robert Thomas, and that is that Robert Thomas is good to go for Game 1 versus Winnipeg. This was really good news and something that I felt a big sigh of relief. He was on ice today, too, for Blues practice, so Thomas is okay. I think it's a really good thing that this organization does take precautionary measures when it comes to certain players like a Robert Thomas. But yes, he will be in the lineup for tomorrow's game. Again, super good news. And I know then the other question kind of turns to Dylan Holloway. What is going on with Dylan Holloway? Is he okay? Will he be playing any playoff games? And honestly, here's the thing. The main problem right now is with Dylan Holloway, we do have an update, okay? And here's the thing. This is an update that I feel like a lot of people just kind of want to know about. Is Dylan Holloway, is he more injured than we think? And I talked about this prior to here in Locked On Blues about what is evidently going on with him. And that is that we don't really have anything still week to week. I would feel a lot more confident if Holloway was healthy and was able to play. I know for me personally, he is one of the biggest assets of this team that's really carried this team. So again, filming this right now, there might be an update after that. That's just what I'm hearing at the moment. Again, if I'm able to provide you with any updates that come after this, it will be on my Twitter at Locked On Blues. Again, this is what I'm hearing now. So that is that. In terms of other player injuries, not hearing anything else, but again, anything and everything will be posted again on Twitter at Locked On Blues. But let's talk a little bit more about the Blues and the Jets, right? because right now Winnipeg has a 69 to 31% chance of winning the series against the Blues. And it's crazy, right? Because right now it just seems like for Winnipeg, the Jets, they have a couple players that are hurt. And again, it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. And I feel like the Jets are a team that has been really resilient to injuries and what's been going on. But again, I still believe in this team. The Blues, I have to tell you, these are my boys. I feel good. Anytime we see these two teams play, obviously it's going to be a good one. And maybe that's why I'm saying 6 games, because it just reminds me of the past. But anyways, last season, in case you don't remember, the Jets did win. I mean, they did lose. I'm sorry about that. I really am. To the first round in 5 games to the Colorado Avalanche after they finished the season with 110 points. And here's the thing. For the Blues, I feel like, again, this is the mentality they have. As Braden Shen said, this is what you play for. This is what you train for in the summer. And this is what you want to play for all year to get the chance at the Stanley Cup. All right. Kyle Connor, he is a guy that scares me. He had an NHL career high of 97 points with 41 goals and 56 assists in 82 games. 4 more than his previous best in 2021, 2022. And again, Kyle Connor, again, and when I say Jets in Atlanta, like obviously the Jets used to be the Thrashers, so like don't get all confused. But he is the second player in Jets in Atlanta history with multiple 40 plus goal seasons. So again, huge standout. And I always say that too. Kyle Connor makes me nervous. Obviously, Connor Hellebuck, what can I say? Nominated for Hart, like he's so good. He is 47, 12, and 3. Again, unbelievable. 925 save percentage, 8 shutouts in 63 games, 62 starts. So really good for him. When it comes to my man, I was going to say Jay, and then I was like Jordan Binnington. While his numbers are not as good as it has been in the past, one of the big standouts, obviously, was him helping the Blues get the Cup in 2019. Also, for the Four Nations face-off in February, who helped Team Canada win the championship. This season, 28, 22, and 5 with a 900 save percentage. Again, obviously not as good, but at the end of the day, yeah, he's still solid. So do not give me that. Obviously, for the Jets, Mark Scheifele, again, great player, makes me nervous. So I get a little bit nervous. Jets' coach said, I'm happy that a lot of the things we talked about in training camp we accomplished. Obviously, the President's Trophy wasn't one of them that we talked about, but I'm really proud to be a part of this team. We're still going to be judge of what happens from game 83 on. There's still a lot to happen. Hopefully, there's a long story that will go with that, and this becomes a 2.5-month long story. Coach Montgomery said, I thought as soon as I coached the first game, it was against the New York Rangers, and it was a 5-2 win in Madison Square Garden, by the way, November 25th. I saw how much depth and talent was there. I thought if we can get to the right places, our habits and our game management, that we'd be able to do this. Like I've said all along, it took longer than expected. And I think that's the thing, is that when Coach Montgomery took over, it did take longer than expected because this team just didn't have any real chemistry then, okay? And I'm not blaming this on Drew Bannister because, again, he was a great AHL coach for the Thunderbirds. They put him in this position. I just don't think this was the right position for him. But, again, not my decision. And I just feel like when Coach Montgomery took over, he knew what he was doing. He's been with this team before. He obviously loves it here in St. Louis. So I just felt like all the components really fit and they matched up well, and it worked out pretty good for the Blues. So I feel good about that. Anyways, I just want to let you know at least the 4 games that are set in stone. Game 1 is Saturday, 5 p.m. And then our time would be, no, it's 5 p.m. They actually have it in Central, thank God. Game 2 will be Monday at 6:30. Game 3 will be Thursday at 8:30, and then Game 4 will be Sunday at noon. If there is a Game 5, it'll be Wednesday, April 30th, time to be determined. Game 6 will be Friday, May 2nd. And then if needed, Game 7 will be Sunday, May 4th. Again, everything will be to be determined after those 4 games, but hopefully either the Blues sweep or we get some bonus hockey, which is always kind of fun for me. So I enjoy that one greatly. Just to give you a little bit of an update, Dvorsky was assigned to Springfield. No surprise on that one. I know that the guys are kind of rocking and rolling with Snuggie. All right, before I get into my final segment, I want to tell you about my friends over at GameTime. The Stanley Cup playoffs are here, and if you've never been to a live NHL playoff game, it's unlike anything else. The intensity, the speed, the energy in the building, it's next level. And thanks to GameTime, getting in the door is easier and more affordable than ever. GameTime is the fastest way to grab playoff tickets, even for those must-see matchups. Prices actually drop as the puck drop gets closer, and with last-minute deals, you can save up to 60%. And this is why I love GameTime so much, because I can save up to 60% from buying last-minute tickets for sporting events, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. I love their all-in pricing because it shows the total cost up front, so there's no surprise fees at checkout. The app even shows you panoramic seat views, so I can know exactly where I'm going to be sitting and what it's going to look like around me, which is a big thing for me. And obviously with GameTime coverage, I know I am protected, whether it's cancellation protection, job loss assurance, or their 24-hour return guarantee. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply again. That's code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download GameTime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. You know what else is guaranteed? It is an Are We Feeling Blue Friday. And that means one thing. Was this a good week or was this a bad week for the St. Louis Blues? I know for me, it was a pretty good week for the Blues because we are playoff bound. That is right. The St. Louis Blues make their 46th playoff appearance in franchise history starting off tomorrow night. Robert Thomas is healthy and good to know. I feel absolutely confident with Jordan Binnington in net. Zachary Bolduc has had an unbelievable rookie season. Jordan Kyrou 37 goals this season, which is insane. Again, defense, Colton Parayko. Cam Fowler. What a great addition that we got here from Cam Fowler from Anaheim. Even Ryan Suter, the man that's been all around the Central Division, has been showing up big time here for the Blues. And so many more. The WTF line, they have been absolutely stellar. I cannot say enough good things about this team. This has been the most fun that I've had in years watching Blues hockey. And honestly, tomorrow night starts the chapter of something new. It starts the chapter of new storylines, new memories that we can have in the playoffs. And hopefully this goes until the very end. Oh, how great of a story would that be? It would be so sentimental, but we can't get too ahead of ourselves, okay? We have playoff hockey. Now, it will be in St. Louis in a couple of days, but starting off in Winnipeg. But obviously, I know the vibes are really good here. I'm going to be wearing my blue notes all day repping because the St. Louis Blues are going to try to chase towards Stanley Cup, and I cannot wait. For all of your Blues coverage, make sure to follow me on Twitter at Locked On Blues or my own Twitter at Haley T. Simon, because I will be talking to you nonstop, talking your ear off about Blues hockey. There is no better event, no better playoff series than NHL hockey. And I know that all my football, my basketball, my baseball people might say, no, you're wrong. I am not wrong. I know I am right. Ever since I got my lucky Blues nails, yes, that is correct. I got my nails based off of Louie, our mascot. The Blues went on that 12-game win streak and they made the playoffs. So again, when you rep your team every single day, good things happen. Again, I cannot wait, but comment down below. And how many games do you think the St. Louis Blues will it take for them to win the series against the Winnipeg Jets? Again, I am super excited. It feels like Christmas Eve here. I cannot wait. But I will talk to you tomorrow. That is right, because I will be updating this channel every single day. That is what you get with Blues playoff hockey. Again, my name is Haley Taylor Simon. Thank you so much for watching. And how I end every single episode, say it with me. 1, 2, 3. Let's go Blues.